doing? Episode 7 of the Fear series. And the Fear series, for those who may not have been watching thus far, all 6 episodes, has been about conquering different fears that we face on a day-to-day basis as we're just growing and learning. So it's episode 7, and today we're going to talk about one of the hardest things, most fearful things, and that is vulnerability. The crazy part is a lot of people don't actually know you for sure, like know you completely, because a lot of times we hide things, not so much hide, but like kind of, I guess we kind of like withhold ourselves from people because, at least for me, sometimes it's like the fear of getting hurt and also the fear of not being accepted for who you are. So being afraid to be vulnerable, I guess, stems from other fears, which I'm now realizing. So I think, of course, it stems from like your upbringing and different things that happen when you're coming up in the years. So prime example, you get close to certain people for certain reasons. So as children, we develop relationships, of course, with our parents or whoever raises us as, parental figure. We develop relationships and mental schemas is what it's called, with special friends, items that cause us to feel comfortable and just be ourselves, allow us to be ourselves. We have relationships, like at least in my culture, we have cousins who are literally just friends that we've grown throughout the years together, and they're our cousins, and aunties and uncles and things like that have no blood relation, but they are literally our family. And for me, growing up was, there weren't many people that I could say that I literally just was completely vulnerable with, like 100%, no matter what I was going through, no matter what I was, thinking in my mind, no matter whatever, my accomplishments, my failures, everything. There's literally less than a handful of people that I was that open with growing up. And coming into adulthood, of course, it's kind of like you don't know that you're not being vulnerable or that you're being vulnerable with these people because it's just a level of comfort. So like your mom, dad, best friend, childhood best friend at school. I talk about that in my book. I had a childhood best friend, and Andrea was, I don't even know how she's doing now, but in my kindergarten class, Andrea was 13, I want to say, either between 11 and 13 years old. I was in kindergarten, and I remember asking my teacher, like, how old is the girl? Like, how old is this girl? And, I was always an inquisitive kid, but she was like a teenager. She, I can remember her face. She had a short haircut, very, not real chunky face, but it was like she had a pretty face. Of course, no makeup because we're in kindergarten, This was a kindergarten class, but like just beautiful face. And she used to like have her mouth open sometimes but she was always happy. Like it was that open mouth smile, and it was like the best thing to encounter. And I remember like being that I was always like the helpful kid in the class, but I remember me and Andrea, I would hold her hand or she would hold my hand, and we would go to assemblies together, and I don't know how I remember this stuff, but like we would just always be together in class. And she was literally like one of my best friends in school at that time. But it was just like it's kind of like she needed me as much as I needed her, and kind of just for that support. And I don't know, it was just so like nothing was wrong with our friendship. I was like 6 or whatever, or 5, however old. She's like 13, but we were the best of buddies, and we did our work together. Everything was just fine, and I was just free to be myself, just completely free to be myself. But then there's, you start getting older, and then there's like the mean girl thing that starts to happen, and the self-esteem things that starts to happen, and it's really, really hard to just be yourself. It is extremely hard. especially growing up, but even in adulthood, like it's extremely hard to just be yourself. And I actually previously I was talking to a friend of mine, and one of the pastors that I know really well, he's awesome. He said vulnerability is literally, what did he say? Vulnerability is giving someone the opportunity to hurt you and just trusting that they won't. I'm gonna say that again. Vulnerability is giving someone the opportunity to hurt you, but trusting that they won't. That is deep. And I don't think I've ever thought about vulnerability in that way until I actually saw that. And that was this year. So I was this old when I actually thought about vulnerability as giving someone that opportunity. And it's crazy because it's kind of like it acts out that way in life, but you just don't know how to put it into words. That is it's like the most nerve-wracking thing ever. And I think about, vulnerability more now as an adult, because of course you get into the societal age where it's like, all right, you're in your 30s, when you get married, when you're having some kids, and it's kind of like, how do you choose? Of course you wait on God's timing and you listen to him and pray and make sure that he's leading you in your decisions, but how do you choose a mate that is going to be with you for the rest of your life, and not just the fluffy bunnies and fairy tale, but who's going to, logically thinking, right, who's going to share your income, so whatever money you make, that's their money too, right, and vice versa, who's going to be there with you when you're, throwing up if you have a stomach bug, or, who is going to know all your health information when someone calls on the phone, hey, this is what's going on with them, somebody who is going to completely know you inside and out. And of course you'll never know everything about a person, but it's like, it's something you think about, like, man, God, like, how do you pick? How do I release who I am completely to this person? Like he said, I'm literally giving you the opportunity to just completely destroy me. Like, everything about me, but I'm trusting that because you are a man of God or a woman of God or whatever, because you are a person of integrity, that you won't do that. That is crazy. And even not in relationships, even in not in marital relationships or whatever, but even in like familial relationships, like, I know for at least my siblings and myself, we haven't had the same relationship with our parents. So where I was extremely close to my mom, they weren't as close, or where they're extremely close to daddy, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is crazy. You can grow up in the same environment, but I say all that to say, being vulnerable even kind of spills over into your friendships, family relationships, all that type of stuff, because sometimes you get those instances where you are literally, you're trying to be yourself, but you're not given the acceptance that is comfortable. Like, I am a nerd, and I feel like, if I was, being my nerdy self, I love to learn, I love to challenge myself, right? If I was not a kid whose parents were extremely supportive of that, maybe I would have, closed myself off. I've actually seen that happen with people. You close yourself off from the relationships with people because they're not accepting you for who you are. And it's so difficult. It's so difficult, not just for self-acceptance, but also because you're opening yourself up to someone else. You don't know what they're going to do. And I was just actually talking to my godmother. It's so easy for us to expect ourselves from other people. So to expect what we would give, like the acceptance and stuff that we would give to others, we expect that from other people. However we would act in any situation, we expect that from other people because to us it's common sense. But it's not always like that. So it's just really, really hard to be vulnerable It is extremely hard because you don't know if you can be yourself. You don't know how people will react. You don't want to offend anybody, and sometimes you don't even care about offending anybody. It's just like, am I allowed to be me? I don't think, maybe for the last 5 or so years, I can say the number of people who actually know me and know my heart and know my personality completely is about 3 or 4. I think it's about 3. and unfortunately, it's unfortunate yet fortunate, because it's only through God that has happened. This is another thing. This is also what makes it hard. You can become vulnerable with this set of people. So let's say your father, your older sister, and a grandparent. As you're getting older, the parental people, they get older too. God forbid you lose them. And then those people that you've grown comfortable with and that accept you 100% and that have given you the love and allowed you to just be who you are and nurtured that in you, the people that you confide in with everything, now you don't have them. And I have dealt with that. That, I think, is really the hardest part for me now in my adulthood, is the people that knew me and knew my heart, and really, not all of them, but some of the ones that have known me from the beginning and actually took the time to learn my personality and things like that, I don't have anymore. So it has been challenging to be vulnerable, not so much because I'm not comfortable to be vulnerable, but being vulnerable with new people that God allows in my life, or being vulnerable with some people who have been in my life and have always been there, and available, but I never trusted it. There's so much to this. There is so much to this. Vulnerability is hard. And again, this is not a lesson that I can say, yep, I conquered it. I can say, trust God above all things and seek Him in general when it comes to who you trust. And then as you're doing that, give people opportunities to know who you are. That doesn't mean you have to spill your guts. That doesn't mean that you have to completely relinquish, this is what's going on with me, all these things. But that does mean give people the opportunity to be trustworthy. And give yourself the opportunity to just be free, and not so much thinking about, kind of put aside the thought I don't know if, they'll accept it, or maybe, and honestly, sometimes we don't think like that, but don't think as much about, I can't trust it. Just, be who you are. Trust God, be who you are. And then as you are doing that, prayerfully, the Holy Spirit will give you the discernment to know who is trustworthy and who isn't, so that you can live free and be vulnerable in the times where that is necessary and appropriate. I think vulnerability is necessary for growth, to be honest, and it's extremely hard to do, but if we want to grow forward and be better and live freely, we have to learn that as we're trusting God, He will make certain that He orders our steps in such a way that we're not going to walk ourselves into pain, as long as we allow Him to do that. This may have been all over the place, but I hope you got something out of it. Vulnerability is no makeup on camera. So this is me. As I always say, remember to love God, because He is the source of real love. Remember to love yourself and appreciate who God created you to be. And while you are getting all that love, and while you are learning the lessons, remember to love other people, because that is the only way that your world will continue to go around. I love you so very much. And I hope to see you on episode 8. There's some stuff coming, y'all. There's some stuff coming. My single is dropping this month. My release date is finally out. So on September the 24th, my single drops on all digital platforms. I'll be talking more about that, but that's just a little sprinkle. All right, I'm out of here. I love you guys so much. Bye.